Pal dynasty. So students, in your textbook, underline that sentence. It is very important, as in the point of the fill in the blanks and answer in one sentence. That dash in the 8th century was a famous dynasty in the Bengal. I am talking about the Bengal. That is the Pal dynasty. Pal dynasty is the famous dynasty. Pal dynasty is the famous dynasty in the Bengal. Okay, then along with this Pal dynasties, Pal dynasty were famous in a Bengal, but in a central part of the India, we had the Gurjar Pratihar and Rajput dynasty. Okay, in central part, it is a Gurjar Pratihar, and that spreaded that empire in Andhra, Kalinga, Kathewar, Kannauj, Gujarat, and Vidarbha. Okay, so Gurjar Pratihar, they have spreaded their empire where it Andhra, Kalinga, Vidarbha, Kathewar, Kannauj, and Gujarat. In that places, Gurjar Pratihar, they have spreaded their empire. Okay, then the Rajput dynasties, these dynasties, it is in the north part. So students, don't be confused. In a central part, there were Gurjar Pratihar. In a central part, there were Gurjar Pratihar, and in a north part, there were who are there in a Rajput dynasty. And in Rajput dynasties, the Prithviraj Chauhan, who are belonging from the Chauhan dynasty, was a very courageous king. In your textbook, they have written a valiant king. Valiant means he has a lots of courage. Understood, student? Rajput dynasty, it is in the north part of India. Even along with the Rajput dynasty, Gadwal, Parmar dynasty, these dynasties were also important ones. And in Rajput dynasty, who is the famous king? Prithviraj Chauhan. Who is the famous king? Prithviraj Chauhan. Then in the first war of Tarai, Prithviraj Chauhan had defeated the Muhammad Ghori. Muhammad Ghori is an enemy, and he wanted to conquer the empire, the Chauhan dynasty. But at the first battle, Prithviraj Chauhan defeated the Muhammad Ghori. But the Muhammad Ghori defeated Prithviraj at second war, same at Tarai. Okay, students, so we have learned with this only the Pal dynasty in Bengal, Gurjar Pratihar, where in the central part, Rajputa dynasty in the north part, and this Rajputana dynasty is famous in the north part of India, and in Rajput dynasty, Prithviraj Chauhan is the famous king. Then Raja Raj I and Rajendra I. What? Underline this sentence in your textbook that Raja Raj I and Rajendra I is belonging from Chola dynasty. And Chola dynasties were in Tamil Nadu. Chola dynasties were in Tamil Nadu. And who is the famous king in Chola dynasty? Raja Raj I and Rajendra I. Then these Cholas conquered Maldives Island and Sri Lanka by using their navy force. It's not the updated or the modern force, naval force they were using, whatever the naval force they were using, the Cholas were using. By using that, this Chola dynasty conquered Maldives Island and the Sri Lanka. Then the King Vishnuvardhan. King Vishnuvardhan, underline this. King Vishnuvardhan, he is belonging from which dynasty? Hoysal dynasty. King Vishnuvardhan is belonging from which dynasty? Hoysal dynasty in Karnataka. And this Hoysal dynasty, he conquered the whole Karnataka. Then during the region of the Govinda III, this Rashtrakuta dynasty. About this Rashtrakuta dynasties, we have learned in the 6th standard. Okay, so this Rashtrakuta dynasty were in Maharashtra, and they have spread their empire from Kannauj to Rameshwar. Then let us go. Who has conquered in which period, in whose king's era? That name of the king is the Govinda III. Okay. Then later on, Krishna III conquered the region of Allahabad. Conquered the region of Allahabad. Then later on, the three dynasties. See, here we have learned the Rashtrakuta dynasty. It is in Maharashtra. Along with this, in a western part of Maharashtra, the other Shiladhas, means other kings who get merged, that three dynasties were ruled over in Thane, Raigad in North Konkan. Okay, this is the first. And the second in the South Konkan, and third dynasty ruled over the part of the present day, that is Sangli, Belgaum, Kolhapur and Satara. These are the four. See, three dynasties of the Shilahas. Which three dynasties of Shilahas? Which are the three dynasties of the Shilahas? That are, the first is who ruled over Thane and Raigad in North Konkan. If in the name the following, if I ask which are the three dynasties of the Shilahas, then you are able to write one dynasty who ruled over Thane and Raigad, but where in Raigad? In North Konkan. Second, in South Konkan. Third, the some part of the today's Maharashtra, that is Kolhapur, Satara, Sangli, and Belgaum. Okay, when the before the birth of the Shivaji Maharaj, Yadavas is a powerful dynasty during that time, and the capital of this Yadava dynasty, Bilam V, was at Devgiri near Aurangabad, and this Bilam V, he has extended the empire beyond river Krishna. And really, student, this Yadava period is considered to be golden period of the Marathi language. Why? Because the Warkari movement and the Mahanubhav Pantha get emerged in that period. If the such question has come, why Yadava period is considered the golden period of Marathi language and literature, then you are able to write that in that period Mahanubhav Pantha and Warkari movement get emerged. So students, it is very important in your textbook. You can mark that paragraph, and you can write it is important. You can write IMP. Then the next, it is the invasion of the northwest. Northwest means what? Northwest direction. Then the local dynasties like the Yadava and the Rashtrakuta, they were ruled in Maharashtra. But the invaders means the others, they are also attacking on us. So that this invaders from the northwest, they conquered, means they captured the dynasty and they established their own rule. Invaders means the attackers. Invaders means attackers. Then in the meanwhile, the Arab power, they also get emerged in the Middle East. They started to rule, and they started to rule on India, and they, along with that, they expand their empire also. Okay, the Arab general Muhammad bin Qasim, what? Muhammad bin Qasim, he attacked Sindh province in the 8th century. Underline, student, this line, that who attacked the Sindh province in the 8th century, you are able to write it is Muhammad bin Qasim. Very, very important. Okay. Then not along with that, the king Dahir, he also conquered the province of Sindh. Already Muhammad bin Qasim attacked Sindh province in the 8th century. Along with it, the king Dahir also conquered. So because of that, these Arab people came political contact with India first time. And along with these Arab, Turks, Afghans, Mughals were also they came to an India from the Central Asia and they established their own power. Okay, students, what we have learned, Arab, they have emerged in the Middle East part and they turned towards in India. Come, which Arab Arab king came to an India in the same, which Arab attacked the Sindh province in the 8th century? Muhammad bin Qasim. Along with that, King Dahir. Okay, so what happened because of that? These Arab people came into political contact with the king, and along with that, Turks also come, Afghan also come, and the Mughal also come. Then later on, in 11th century, Turks invade India and they expand their territories, and while expansion they reach the northwestern direction of the India. Then the Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni, he invaded India so many times, and when he invaded India and he attacked on India, after attacking he took lots of rich, he attacked the rich temples of India. And in what is mean by the rich temples of India? It means their pillars. The in mostly in what in previous kings they have done, they have made up pillars with the gold, silver, or even the idols of the gods. They made with various the precious metal. This king, which the Sultan Muhammad Ghazni, he take all that wealth along with that. And which are that rich temples? Mathura, Vrindavan, Kanauj, Somnath. Okay, and he took all the wealth of that temples along with him. Then the Sultanate in the north. Okay, then in Sultanate in the north, that we have learned that at the time this Muhammad Ghuri, he wanted to conquer the Chauhan dynasty. And normally Rajputa dynasty, it is in the north part of the India. So that's why in 1175 and 1178, Sultan Muhammad Ghori, this Sultan Muhammad Ghori, he come from the Afghanistan and he invaded India and he appointed the Kutubuddin Aibak, he is appointed the Kutubuddin Aibak, and he gives the responsibility to look after the governance of the conquered territories. Then after the death of the Muhammad Ghori, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, he started he's not started to run that country. He become a king of that empire, which are established by the Muhammad Ghori. So that's why from this moment, after the death of the Muhammad Ghori, Kutubuddin Aibak began to rule an Indian territories. Then Ibrahim Lodi was the last sultan, and he had many enemies because of this peculiar temperament. Peculiar temperament means his behavior is not so proper. Then Daulat Khan Lodi, the governor of Punjab, he invited Babur, and Babur is a founder of the Mughal power. Ibrahim Lodi, basically they are from Afghanistan, and here the Daulat Khan Lodi, the governor of Punjab, he invited the Babur because he wanted to fight against the Abraham Lodi. Then Abraham Lodi, defeated by the Babur, and the Sultanate came to an end. Okay, then the kingdom of the Vijayanagar, kingdom of the Vijayanagar, during the region of the Muhammad bin Tughlaq, that we have learned about it, that Muhammad bin Tughlaq, he is the, he was the, there were many revolt against the central power of Delhi, but all these revolts get rose formidable Vijayanagar and the Bahmani kingdom. It means in the north, in Delhi, you can see the various kingdom, but the famous kingdom is the Vijayanagar and the Bahmani kingdom. The brothers of Harihar and Bukka. This is Harihar and it is a Bukka. These two are the brothers. They are from the South India and they were the Sardar in the Delhi Sultanate. These two were the Sardar of the Delhi Sultanate. It is in the under of the Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Then by taking, so sometimes what happened, that the Muhammad bin Tughlaq started to ignore the part of south part of his region, and this advantage is taken by these two brothers, and they founded their own kingdom, that is a Vijayanagar. And the Hampi today, this Hampi today is in Karnataka. That Hampi was the capital of the Vijayanagar. And this Harihar, this first picture is the Harihar, was the king of that Vijayanagar. And after the death of the Harihar, his brother Bukka get started to work the expansion of for the expansion of his kingdom, or carry out the work of his empire. Understood, students? See, first of all, this Harihar and Bukka, they were working under the control of the Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and they were the Sardar in the south part of India. Then this ignorance of this Muhammad bin Tughlaq, they established their own kingdom. Okay, then this is the Krishna Deva Raya. Okay, Krishna Deva Raya ascended the throne Vijayanagar, and he conquered Vijayawada, Rajmahendri, and annexed the region to his kingdom. Then he defeated so many forces of the armies of the sultans who had united under the leadership of the Bahmani Sultan Muhammad Shah. And during this time of the Krishna Deva Raya, Vijayanagar extended from Cuttack in the east up to Goa in the west, and from the Raichur Daob in the north up to Indian Ocean in the south. And he died in 1530. Okay, so he is a valiant king of the Vijayanagar kingdom. And a very important now a very important thing about the Krishna Deva Raya, I am going to explain that the Krishna Deva Raya was a scholar. He wrote Amukta Malyada, a Telugu companion on polity, and Hazar Ram temple and Vitthal temple they built it during the region of his time. Okay, students. Then after the decline of the Vijayanagar kingdom began after the death of the Krishna Deva Raya, the kingdom of the Vijayanagar started to decline. In 1565, at Talikat, the present state of Karnataka, there was a battle in between the Adil Shahi, Nizam Shahi, Qutub Shahi. Okay, and one side it is only Vijayanagar. So in that battle, Vijayanagar gets defeated, and this Vijayanagar kingdom came to an end. See why the Vijayanagar came to an end? Because at Talikat, Talikat it is in right now, it is in Karnataka. Adil Shahi, Qutub Shahi, Brij Shahi, and the Nizam Shahi, they are coming together and they fought against the Vijayanagar. So because of this reason, they defeated and the Vijayanagar came to an end. Now the next one is the Bahmani. Next one is the Bahmani kingdom. Okay, the Bahmani kingdom. Why in Muhammad bin Tughlaq was still on his throne. Some Sardar in the Deccan he rose voiced against him. Then the leader of the Sardar, Hassan Gangu, he defeated the army of the Sultan of Delhi. And after defeating, a new kingdom came to an the new kingdom comes, that is a Bahmani kingdom. And Hassan Gangu became the first Sultan of the Bahmani kingdom, and he made that city Gulbarga. Who made the city Gulbarga? Hassan Gangu. Underline that sentence, dash become the first Sultan of the Bahmani kingdom. Then you are able to write it is a Hassan Gangu. It is what? Hassan Gangu. And what is the capital of the Bahmani kingdom? The capital of the Bahmani kingdom is the Gulbarga. Okay. So the next is the Muhammad Gawan. Muhammad Gawan was the chief wazir of this Bahmani kingdom. Who was the chief wazir of the Bahmani kingdom? Then you are able to write Mahmud Gawan. He was a good administrator. He makes the the Bahmani kingdoms very powerful. Even he started to pay the soldiers their salaries in cash instead of land. Then he brought all the discipline in the army. He introduced many reforms in the land revenue system. Even he opened the madrasa at Bidar for Arabic and the Persian studies. Students mark that mark that paragraph as important, that write a short note on the Muhammad Gawan. What is that? He was the chief of the Bahmani kingdom. He is a good administrator. He makes the powerful Bahmani kingdom. He started to pay the soldiers in cash instead of granting land. He introduced new revenue system. And even he opened the madrasa, Bidar for Arabic and for Persian studies. Then after the death of the Muhammad Gawan, fascism increased among the Bahmani Sardar. Bahmani Sardar means what? After the death, he is a chief wazir and he is taking care of the Bahmani kingdom. So other Sardars is also started fought for that position. So it is the adverse effect on the Bahmani kingdom. Then the governor began to act more independently. This led the disintegration. Disintegration means division the power of the Bahmani kingdom, and that small power is the Ahmad Shahi, Rida Shahi, Adil Shahi, Nizam Shahi, and the Qutub Shahi. This Bahmani kingdom has divided into these small 5 powers. Underline that 4 lines, that Bahmani kingdom is divided into how many powers? That powers are the 5 powers. First power is the Ahmad Shahi, Barid Shahi, Adil Shahi, and Nizam Shahi. Okay, then we have the Mughal power. We have the Mughal power that we have known as we learn, as we discuss also, that the Babur was the founder of the Mughal power. Who is the founder of the Mughal power? Babur. Who is the founder of the Mughal power? It is the Babur. Very important line. And he has the control. He was the king of the Fargana. It is in a central part of Asia, and just right now it is in Uzbekistan. It means that basically these Mughals, Babur, they are from the Uzbekistan, and he had heard the wealth of the India, and he get attracted and he get invasion. And how the Babur came to an India? Because the Daulat Khan Lodi, he invited Babur because he wanted to fought with the Ibrahim Lodi and he wanted to defeat that. So that's why Babur came to an India. Then that we have learned the relationship between Ibrahim Lodi and Daulat Khan Lodi, there was the strain. So that's why he invited the Babur. Okay, by taking this opportunity, this Babur invaded India so many times to repel Babur's invasion. Ibrahim Lodi, Ibrahim Lodi started his own army, but there was a battle in between them at Panipat. Babur used the artillery effectively, first time in India, and we the Indians, the sultanates of the north, they were never aware about this artillery. So that's why this is known as the first battle of Panipat. In that first battle of Panipat, Ibrahim Lodi get defeated by the Babur. Then after the battle of the Panipat, Rana Sangha of Mewar brought all Rajput kings together. And there were a battle between the Babur, Rana Sangha at Fana. Babur's artillery reserve force played a key role in his battle, and Rana Sangha army was defeated Babur. This is means Babur defeated the battle at Rana Sangha's army, and the Babur get died in 1530. When he get died 1530, then after the Babur, Humayun ascended the throne. Then he was defeated the Sher Shah. Sher Shah, underline that line. Sher Shah established which dynasty? Sir dynasty. Then after the Humayun, Akbar. And there was a battle between Akbar and Hemu at Panipat. And in the second battle of Panipat, Akbar's ambition was to bring the whole India under his control. And the Akbar Jahangir became the emperor in his region. But the Akbar faced so many problems to establish his power because he has to face various dynasties. He has to face the opposition of Maharana Pratap, Chand Bibi, Rani Durgavati. So because of this reason, the peoples get the not peoples, the Babur faced the problem. Faced the problem. Babur faced the problem of sorry, not Babur. Akbar faced the problem to establish his Mughal empire. Okay, so which are that? The first one is the Maharana Pratap. In that Maharana Pratap, after the death of the Uday Singh is the father of the Maharana Pratap. He get ascended the throne and till his last breath, he fought with the Akbar. He fought with the Akbar. For why he fought? Because he wanted to protect his empire. Until the end, he struggled with the Akbar, and he was famous. In your textbook, you can underline it. He can famous for his qualities, valor, courage, self-respect, and sacrifice. See the Chand Bibi. Mughal attacked Ahmednagar, the capital of the Nizam Shah, and the Mughal army put the fort of Ahmednagar under the siege. And this Chand Bibi is the daughter of the Hussein Nizam Shah of Ahmednagar bravely, and he defended that fort. Then at this time there is an internal, means other Sardars. They get cheated. They cheated the Nizam Shah, and so as a result there is a murder of the Chand Bibi. Later on, then Mughal captured the Nizam Shah. They captured the fort of Ahmednagar, and the Mughal could not bring the entire kingdom of the Nizam Shah under his control because, like Chand Bibi, there were many Sardars who are ready to fight with the Mughals. Then the next we have the Rani Durgavati. Rani Durgavati, she is basically from the Gondwana. She is from the Gondwana. And broadly, we said comprise the eastern part. I mean, she expand his power to eastern part of the Vidarbha. That is a part of the some part of north part of the Madhya Pradesh and the western part of the Chhattisgarh and the north part of the Andhra Pradesh. This Durgavati, she born in the Chandel dynasty. It is very important, students. You can underline that line also. That Rani Durgavati born in which dynasty? Chandel Rajput dynasty, and she was the queen of the Gondwana when she was married. She was an excellent administrator. And the fort in between, the Rani Durgavati and the Mughal, there was a very important, that war is a very important in the medieval part of the history. Then after her husband's death, whose Rani Durgavati's husband's death, he let down her life while fight against only Akbar. But just like Jhansi Rani, she did not surrender. Then Aurangzeb became the emperor. At this time, the Mughal means this Aurangzeb basically is from the Mughal Empire only, and he's extended his empire, Kashmir, in the north, to Ahmednagar in the south, Kabul in the west up to Bengal to the east, and he has Assam in the east in the region of Adil Shahi of Bijapur in the south, and Qutub Shahi of the Golconda after he ended this kingdom. Who Aurangzeb ended these kingdoms, and he expanded his Mughal power broadly in India. Then we have the conflicts with the Ahoms. Conflicts with the Ahoms means in the 13th century, the people of the Shan community, they settled down in the valley of river Brahmaputra. Okay, and they established their own kingdom, and that kingdom is known as the Ahom people. What is meant by Ahom? That in 13th century, the people of Shan community, they settled down in the valley of Brahmaputra and they established their kingdom. And locally, this is known as the Ahom people. While Aurangzeb were ruled, the Ahom had a prolonged struggle, means they have a lot struggle with the Mughals. The Mughals attacked on Ahom region. But the Ahom, they are united. They are united under the leadership of the Gadadhar Sinha. The commander of the Lachit Borphukan gave an intense battle against the Mughal. The Ahom, why the Mughals, they were not able, why the Mughals, they are unable to establish their power in the Ahom, because Ahom used the guerrilla technique, and it is impossible to create a strong base in the Assam for Mughals. Why? Because they are using a guerrilla technique and Mughals are not aware about that. Then we have the conflict with the Sikh also. Okay, the ninth Guru. Who is the ninth Guru of the Sikh? Guru Tegh Bahadur. Even he also strongly protests against the Aurangzeb policy. Then Aurangzeb imprisoned him. Okay, imprisoned him and beheaded. He cut his head. Then after the Guru Gobind, after him, after Guru Tegh Bahadur, Guru Gobind Singh became the Guru of Sikh. Guru Gobind Singh, he organized his followers, he encouraged the martial spirit. Martial spirit means वो कराटे में आपका martial art होता है ना, that he encouraged the martial spirit. Even he organized the Sikh youth, and that youth is fighting with a force, and he gave name to that force. It is a Khalsa Dal, and the headquarter of the Khalsa Dal, it is a Anandapur. And Aurangzeb sent his army to fight with the Sikh, but his army, whose Guru Gobind Singh's army, attacked Anandapur, although the Sikhs fought fiercely. Means in that fort, the Sikhs fought it very fiercely, but they did not succeed. And Guru Gobind Singh, after that, Guru Gobind Singh came to an Deccan, and he attained his life at Nanded. And soon the Guru committed to his vows. Okay, then we have the conflict with the Marathas also. So, student, that Akbar had secured cooperation of the Rajputs with this policy, and the Aurangzeb could not did not get the cooperation from the Rajput. After the death of the Rana Jaswant Singh of Marwad, who after the death of he annexed. So after conflict with the Rajput, we are learning. He annexed Jaswant Singh of Marwad. Then Aurangzeb annexed his various kingdom and expanded his Mughal empire. Then the Durgadas Rathod, after the death of the Jaswant Singh, Durgadas Rathod is a minor son Ajit Singh as the king of the Marwad. But the same Durgadas Rathod is unable to fight against the Britishers. Then the what Akbar, this one Aurangzeb did, he sent the Prince Akbar to Marwad to crush the voice raised by the Durgadas. But what Prince Akbar did, he joined hands with the Rajput and rose voice against the Aurangzeb. And the effort was made that they are supposed to take the help from the Marathas in Maharashtra. So the Durgadas Rathod continued their struggle against the Mughals for the existence of the Marwad. Okay, so we have learned with the conflict with the Sikh, conflict with the Ahom, conflict with the Rajput. Now the last topic is the conflict with the Marathas. So in Maharashtra, Swaraj was established under the leadership of the Shivaji Maharaj. We know Shivaji Maharaj fought with the Mughals too, along with the other enemies. Then Aurangzeb came down to the Deccan after the death of the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, because when there were a Shivaji Maharaj is not able to spread the Mughal empire in the Maharashtra. After his death, he came to an Deccan, but again our Marathas offered, means if they fought fearlessly with the Mughals, and the Mughals are not able to expand his power. Okay, student. So we have done with our lesson. So students, now I am going to ask you the question.